Hello, and welcome to the AI Business Leadership Podcast, where we speak to business leaders about all things artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Laura Nelson, Head of Product at SolvedBy.Ai, and today's guest is George Boretos, Founder and CEO at FutureUp. Hello, George.
Hi, Laura. Great to be here today, and thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for coming on. So, George has over 25 years' experience in leadership positions in enterprise software markets. He has a deep understanding of AI technologies and a successful journey as an entrepreneur, launching startups and working with Fortune 500 and other customers worldwide. So, today we're going to hear about George's journey into leadership, and we're also going to talk about how businesses and organizations can make data driven decisions to optimize pricing, improve profitability, and accelerate growth using AI. So, George, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Could you just share with our listeners a little bit more about your background and what brought you to where you are now?
Well, yes, of course. My professional career started before that time. It's been 3 decades now, 30 years. Initially, I was a business executive, not a startupper as I am right now. So, for the first 20 years of my professional life, I was mostly leading marketing and sales department and functions, mostly commercial functions, working for technology companies. And I've learned a lot during these 20 years, as you can understand, of how companies working, marketing departments, and so on and so forth. But since I was working in technology companies and innovation was and still is something extremely important, this was missing because it's very difficult to innovate and be very creative in established environments and setups. So this is why I decided to start something on my own, and this is how I became a startupper. And for the past 8 years or so now, I have launched three startup companies, and I have in the AI space, by the way. I have raised millions in seed and Series A funding, and I have worked, as you mentioned, with all sorts of customers, including, of course, Fortune 500 customers. And my latest endeavor is called FutureUp, and it's an AI company involved in AI-based and powered price optimization for business.
And how did you first get involved with AI?
Oh, that's a big story. Are you sure you have time? No, it's not so big. But it goes back even before starting my professional career because I studied AI back then in primitive times where AI was not the talk of the town as it is right now. But I did study it during my university time and I loved it from day one. And then there was an opportunity to do something with that when I started working in the marketing department of my first employer, again, before almost 30 years. Because in the marketing department, they always ask you about sales forecasts, market forecast, competition, all these sort of things. So I thought back then that there would be some magical formula from the AI space or machine learning space that I would get and start predicting things. So I've searched it, as you can imagine, especially back then, I didn't find anything at all. So I decided to create my own predictive model back then to use it in my company, and I did that. I used it. The market was declining where I was working back then, and the model predicted an extremely prosperous and great turnaround of the market in the following 3 years. And the company believed that. And thank God they did that because eventually the market went exactly as the forecast forecasted. And the company had invested a lot in new products and new product launches, and they managed to uh, change their market share completely from declining market share to leading market position, which was great and was partly, at least, based on this forecast. And this is how I understood that predictive AI, which is the branch of AI where I work in, uh, really works and has a great business impact. And I created other predictive models afterwards. I've tested them thoroughly for almost 20 years. And then eventually I decided that I should commercialize them. And that was one of the reasons that made me feel I should start my own business. And this is what I did back then. And then eventually, my first startup was using this model. My second was in a completely different area, so I didn't use this model at all. And FutureUp is using the model that I created before 2025.
So now you're leading companies that are innovating in the AI space.
Well, I'm leading a company, FutureUp. Also, I'm mentoring some aspiring AI founders that want to do something similar in different AI spaces, and I give them some guidance. Obviously, I don't lead their companies; I just offer them some advice.
So, I guess speaking of advice, when we were sort of preparing for this discussion, we spoke about how AI should really be used as a tool by all businesses and organizations and also individuals. So, how would you advise individuals go about utilizing AI and AI tools?
Well, there is a lot of fear for AI, and also some people say that this is not for me, this is for tech people possibly, but it's not like that. AI is all around us, it's for everyone, and everyone should be using AI, taking advantage of the great benefits that come with AI, and not be afraid or intimidated by it. And I would advise anyone, any individual, any person, employee, whatever, to start using it immediately. And the first simple thing that you can do is to sign up for a free account from OpenAI, from ChatGPT, or any other similar LLM or whatever system. Start experimenting with a few things. The learning curve is split second, something like that, to learn and understand how the system works is extremely easy. And the speed to value is great. So you can quickly start gaining things, understanding how these things work, and eventually you'll start using perhaps a paid version of ChatGPT, for instance, or other tools more specialized, depending on your line of work or anything. But do something now and start experimenting with AI. That's my advice to everyone.
And people can use that, right, to give themselves a competitive edge, to give themselves a little step up, a little boost.
Definitely, and that's an understatement because really you can do so many things, even with the free tools that are out there. I mean, you can search in a more efficient way using Perplexity, for instance. You can create videos with, let's say, in video by just prompting the system and describing the video. The same with images with Midjourney, for instance. The same with ChatGPT and all the other similar tools. You can make discussions about your business, about your personal life, about whatever you like. It's like discussing with a person, sort of. So you can do all this stuff. And imagine if you are an employee and you can create content, you can analyze data, information, create reports, all these things at half the time, perhaps, at what you used to do. Then you are getting better and better in what you're doing, and possibly you can outperform other people who are not using AI yet. So definitely it can give you competitive.
And that probably applies similarly then at a business level, at an organizational level.
I would say even more because apart from employees using it to improve efficiency, also in businesses you have something more. You can use specialized tools, like for instance, predictive AI to optimize your pricing. That's extremely important. It helps top line and bottom line. You can better target your customers, for instance, by using specialized AI tools. Measure acceptance of products or advertisements or marketing actions. All these things are great because they help you be more efficient in your business, but also to achieve your sales targets and to improve all your financials and all your KPIs, depending on the tool you are using, depending on your line of business, depending on the function, depending on many things. But you can do so many things and gain competitive edge. Definitely, yes.
And so we've talked about individuals, we've talked about businesses. What about people, those looking to go one step further than that? So people who are either currently in or looking to become innovators and tech creators in the AI space. What would be your advice to them?
First of all, I like them, I love them because I'm into this space as well. I'm innovating in AI, and it is hard. It is hard. And I'm saying that because there is a glitch. There are so many beautiful tools out there that can help you with your innovation within your company, like the API from ChatGPT, for instance, from OpenAI. And some people just use this type of platforms to do things that they couldn't do themselves. That's great, but in this case, they are just using a platform. This is not innovation, this is not creative, and this is fully replicable by someone else. So someone else can see what you are doing and replicate that in a few weeks, days, months, or whatever. You have to build a layer of differentiation and something that you innovate, you have created yourself on top of anything else that you are using, on top of ChatGPT or OpenAI's API or something like that. If you do that, then it's very difficult for someone else to replicate what you are doing. If not, then you are in danger. Perhaps you have a competitive advantage, quoted many times for a few days, possibly, or a few months, but then you are doomed. So all of us who innovate in the AI space, we need to be very, very careful. We should use and leverage these platforms, but we should really innovate, and that's not innovation. We just do that.
So probably an element of first mover advantage, but actually after that, it becomes the same as any other tech innovation. You know, you have to differentiate yourself and make something that's not replicable by another company.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you differentiate yourself, you have to ensure that the barriers of entering this market for your competitors to do the same thing are high enough. Otherwise, it may be great, but not for long.
So, well, I guess speaking of things that don't stay the same for long, so it's been mostly the past few years that AI has kind of exploded into being more mainstream for most people and most of society, whether people realize it or not. What have you seen as the implications of that over the last few years for business leaders?
I think the important thing and the milestone here is we all know that is OpenAI and the launch of ChatGPT. And this is because this is when AI went mainstream. It became part of our social lives. And there is a reason for that because before that, AI was part of a smaller elite, technology enthusiasts and visionaries, tech guys, things like that, but not part of the mainstream ecosystem. But because ChatGPT was so easy to use and delivered instantly great value, then it became popular almost instantly. And this helped popularize the whole AI ecosystem. And now we know that AI is the talk of the time and it's great and so on and so forth. Because AI is now part of the society and our standard day to day business lives, business leaders cannot avoid it. They should do something about it. They should definitely embrace it. They should definitely take advantage of AI tools. If they are AI companies, obviously, or technology companies, that's even more important to innovate along with using AI tools or creating AI tools if they are AI founders or creators. But what they cannot afford to do is don't do anything with AI because a competitor will, and eventually they will take their business. So they need to be extremely active. One more thing is that if you are not involved in AI, you have no cover story of what we are doing with regards with AI, then you are losing face. You become less and less relevant in the market. And that's not good for your customers or potential customers or your partners, or if you're seeking funding for your investors, because obviously for all of these guys, this is at the top of their agenda.
So there's obviously a lot to keep up with in across the whole business world when you are a business leader. How do you keep up with things more to do with AI in terms of developments, in terms of news? How do you kind of keep a track of what's out there and what might then be beneficial for your business or for your clients?
There is only one way because you can't know everything about AI because it's such a vast field. You have to be part of a community. And being a part of the startup community is great because all these guys are passionate for learning new things, adapting new technologies, learning what's the new AI tool and how to use it or incorporate it into their platforms or whatever. So if you've been around this community and you discuss with lots of people, it's easier. It's easier to understand what are the new trends, perhaps what's working, what's not, because they have been experimenting perhaps before you. So if you have access in this information, it's easier. It's not easy, by the way, because everything is changing rapidly. But it's much, much easier than to have to experiment with everything or randomly picking up a couple of tools and hoping that you made the right decision. It's better if you are somewhere in the middle of a community like the startup community is great for.
Hmm. And we talked a little bit about society and about businesses, and those are obviously both structures that are formed and run by human beings. How do you ensure that that AI human relationship is a complementary one?
How do you ensure that? Indeed, that's that's a difficult question. I think that this will be answered by the market and the dynamics that have been evolving the past couple of years, and it's based mostly on what we as humans, I mean, and AI is best at doing. And I think that AI is great in learning things that exist out there, solutions that exist out there, answers to questions that exist and have been answered by other people somewhere in the world, and then applying this knowledge to something. If it's out there, then it's great to use an AI system to capture this knowledge. But if we're talking about the more creative things that we do, like art, for instance, like creating new scientific laws, physics laws, or whatever, or even running a business and innovating in your business, creating new markets, things like that, what startuppers do. If we're talking about the most creative stuff, then right now, at least for the time being, AI is useless, totally useless. We can't use it. That. So, what I think is already happening is that people are starting to focus more in these more creative, strategic things, and machines will do what they're doing best. So, to simulate, let's say, processes or things or methods or whatever that are more straightforward and are based on information that already exists, is not unknown. We're better in unknown territories, and I think you see less and less jobs in more straightforward things and tasks, and more jobs for humans, I mean, in more sophisticated, intellectual, challenging, creative tasks.
And probably more interesting things for people to be doing as well, right?
Definitely, definitely, yes. I mean, before thousands of years, we were all farmers, and now we don't have all of us to do farming because somebody else is doing that, and we have machines helping us with this business. And this allowed us to have more time to think, to innovate, and you've seen what happened the past 10,000 years or so. I think we made it great.
So you don't think AI is our enemy, and it's just the robots come to steal all our jobs?
Well, of course not. Of course not. They are not our enemy. They are not our friends. They are nothing. They are not humans. They are not entities. They are machines doing what they are programmed to do. But behind each and every AI system, there is a company, there is a person using it, there are people with agendas. So if that person is your enemy or could become your enemy, then AI would seem like it is your enemy. But it's not like that. I think that the more and more you get involved into AI, the more secure you are against all these guys that may threaten you by leveraging AI. So AI would not be your enemy. But if not, then all these guys would be your enemies, and AI would seem to be the front end that apparently is your enemy, but actually it's not. It's a person behind that using it.
So it's a tool. It's a tool that is used by human beings at the end of the day.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And as all tools, they can be used for good or bad. And good or bad is also depending on your point of view. So if you are competitors, for instance, the bad thing for you is the best thing for your competitor, and it's healthy. It's how the competition goes.
Hmm.
It's not
Okay.
unethical. I mean, in other cases, it may be unethical, by the way, but talking about business cases where there is no ethics, it's standard, healthy business competition. You have AI tools to help you, or you don't.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So, well, I guess then just to wrap us up on that note, could you share with us one prediction that you have for what artificial intelligence might be able to do for us in 10 years' time?
Well, not in 10 years' time. This is very, very far away. But I can get something for a couple of years because I think some very important developments are very close by, just around the corner. There is a big discussion about AGI, artificial general intelligence, or human equivalent intelligence. So AI that is almost thinks like a human. I think there are, it could be achieved or not, by the way, in the next couple of years, not 10, couple of years, depending on your definition of AGI and human intelligence. Because if you think about it, human intelligence has a few layers. The first layer is our logic. And our logic is how we learn and apply existing information, methods, all these things using our brain. And then you have your creative capacity, what you can create out of thin air. And finally, you have your consciousness. I believe that AGI will be accomplished in the next couple of years, possibly in the first level, the logical level, the learn and apply based on existing information. I think we will accomplish that. But regarding the other two, creativity and innovation and creating things out of thin air, and of course, our consciousness, there is nothing that help us understand that there might be a breakthrough towards that direction. If it ever will be, by the way, because perhaps this is not attainable, even attainable by AI. So I think AGI in this more narrow level will be achieved in the next couple of years. And also, one more thing that we will see is the integration of AI, the transformation of AI. Right now, AI is what? Is mostly clever conversational systems like ChatGPT, Claude, and so on and so forth. You can discuss a few things, but that's all there is to it. They cannot act upon whatever you are discussing. Now we'll see in the coming months possibly AI agents. So this system will be able to act upon whatever you are discussing. And but this act would be electronic act, so digital act. They will schedule a meeting or send an email, but something in the digital space. And then eventually we will see what the integration with the physical world, with robotics, with IoT sensors, where these systems can interact with the physical world and actually act upon whatever they are instructed to do. I think that there are already some opening moves from key players like OpenAI, for instance. I think Meta has discussed some things, definitely NVIDIA, Tesla as well, and so on and so forth. And we've definitely seen some sort of platforms that will prevail in the future and some offerings, more mainstream offerings, in the next couple of years. In 10 years, I think that all these things that we're discussing will appear eventually in 1, 2, maximum 3 years, will have become mainstream and we will be using them without being surprised or overwhelmed by what these systems are doing. So that's my projection. Again, it's not for 10 years, it's next year, the year after that. It's very close.
That sounds very cool. It sounds very convenient. Sounds like a very convenient way of doing things.
It's great and it's really exciting. And I can really understand why so many people are mindful or fear the consequences of such a big, big change because always change is a bit threatened because it changes things, it changes the status quo. It's not called disruption, disruptive technologies by chance because they disrupt people. But this is how things go, especially with technology. We disrupt something, and eventually this something prevails and becomes something else, and then it goes mainstream, and then it's disrupted by something else. We'll be living this sequence of events for the past, I don't know, 200 years at least. I mean, it's even more, but at least in the past 200 years, we've seen so many scientific and technological advancements and great evolution that changed our lives. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you so much, George, for sharing your insights and your expertise with us today. Been great to hear about your journey and your journey into leadership and moving into the world of AI from that academic side through to business and technology, and to talk about your approach for helping individuals and organizations really utilize that power of AI. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to share all these experiences and discuss all this with you. Thank you so much, Laura.
Well, that concludes this episode of the AI Business Leadership Podcast. Keep an eye on our socials for more conversations with business leaders in AI and innovation. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review, and we'll see you next time.